Right. We're going to pull back the curtain on the global economy and take a look at the real monetary system that runs the world. And I'm telling you, it's not what you've been taught. It's largely invisible, and insiders, well, they have a name for it: the Eurodollar system. Everything we hear in the mainstream tells us that governments have a total monopoly on money. But what if that's not even close to the full story? What if the real system is this huge private network that operates completely beyond the control of any one government? And that's why the best analogy for this system is, well, a black hole. You can't see it directly, it's a total shadow system, but you can see its massive gravitational effects on everything orbiting it. Things like the cost of swapping currencies, interest rates on government debt, you name it. These are the little clues that tell us what's really happening at that hidden center. So let's dive right into this economic black hole and try to get a handle on the force that truly shapes our modern world. And the first question has to be, where did this colossal system even come from? Okay, so here's the crazy part. Nobody really knows for sure. Seriously. There was no big conference, no treaty, no government plan. This system, it just evolved. It was an accident, an improvisation by commercial bankers after the war that somehow grew into a global behemoth. What's staggering when you look at this timeline is just the sheer speed of it. I mean, in the late 1950s, this was some obscure little market in London. A few years later, the US Fed finally notices. By 64, the Bank for International Settlements is studying it. And then, by the late 60s, boom, it's the dominant monetary force on the entire planet. It grew in the shadows, and it grew incredibly fast. And you know what? They wanted to keep it that way. When this financial writer Paul Einzig stumbled upon it back in the 60s, the bankers running the show basically told him, hey, keep your mouth shut, don't write about this. This wasn't just an accident, it was a secret. So if this system wasn't designed by anyone and it grew up in secret, how does its engine actually work? Well, the answer is something called ledger money, and it kind of challenges our whole idea of what a dollar even is. We tend to think of money as, physical cash in a vault somewhere, but that is not how the Eurodollar system works at all. It's a ledger money system. A better way to think of it is ghost money. It's just a network of interlocking claims and liabilities, basically digital IOUs that exist only on the balance sheets of global banks. And this isn't some new idea. The legendary economist Milton Friedman figured this out way back in 1969. He pointed out that these Eurodollar banks almost never pay each other in physical cash. They just create a credit on another bank's ledger. The amount of actual physical money they hold is, as he put it, negligible. So here's how it works in a really simple way. Let's say a bank in Switzerland has a bunch of extra Swiss francs. It can swap them for US dollar claim. Not a pile of cash, just an entry on its books. Then it can lend that claim to a company over in Japan that needs dollars. Here's what you have to get. The system acts less like a currency and more like a global telecommunications network for finance. It's just moving promises around. And for a very long time, this network was just an incredible engine for global growth. It became the world's true functional reserve currency. Why? Well, because a global reserve currency really has to do two things well. It's got to be widely available, everywhere, and it has to be widely accepted. By creating its own dollar-denominated credit, this private banking network made dollars available anywhere in the world, on a scale the US government never, ever could. Even former officials could see what was happening. Robert Russa, who was a one-time Undersecretary of the Treasury, he described it perfectly back in 1984. He called it a network, creating dollars outside the United States and beyond the control of the Federal Reserve. It was a stateless currency, run by private banks for the global economy. And the result of all this was just profound. This system financed the greatest economic expansion in human history, period. The globalization that we've all experienced, the intricate supply chains, the flow of goods and capital, it was all built on the back of this shadow money. It allowed the modern economy to flourish in a way that was completely unimaginable before. So what you have here is this really stark contrast. The official story we all learn in school is about the Bretton Woods system, right? Created by governments, tied to gold, and ultimately it was way too rigid. But the real story, that's the Eurodollar system. Created by private banks, flexible, offshore, and it was capable of creating all the money needed to fuel globalization. But, and this is a huge but, this is where the story turns. Because for all the incredible good it did, this system had a breaking point. And for the last 16 years or so, that incredible engine hasn't just sputtered, it has seized up. You need to mark this date, August 9th, 2007. This is the day the hidden system began to break. It's the real starting point of the global financial crisis, and the moment the music just stopped. The system has never been the same since. And that is the problem we are all living with today. The very system that once lubricated global growth is now a source of friction. It's become too restrictive, it's malfunctioning, and it's simply not creating enough of that credit, that ghost money, that the global economy desperately needs to flourish. So, why does understanding this shadow system matter so much? Because it helps us finally see the unseen forces that are shaping our world right now, today. We started this whole explainer with that black hole analogy, right? We can't actually peer into the center. But by understanding that the system is there, we can finally make sense of all the confusing financial stuff we see orbiting around it. So now when you hear financial experts talking about all this obscure stuff like Japanese government bills, FX swaps, or dealer balance sheets, you'll know what they're really doing. They aren't looking at the black hole itself. They're studying the wobble in the orbits of the things around it, trying to figure out if the invisible engine of our world is healthy or if it's sick. And this leaves us with a final massive question. For over half a century, the global economy was powered by an accidental, invisible, and frankly brilliant monetary system. We now know that system is broken. So, what comes next?